your source for everything paranormal. Para-X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Welcome to another episode of He Said, She Said. This is Stephanie.
And this is Tommy Cooper.
And welcome to our second week. Woohoo! Tommy's just laughing.
Time's really flying.
I know. And you were out in the woods again today. Darn it. You're just getting so ahead of me here. I can't even believe it. Injured Steffi. Did you find anything cool? Tell us.
Soon. You'll be back in the woods.
I will. Did you find anything cool?
Yeah, it was a great day. I got a video of some tree structures. I found some skulls. I found some hair on barbed wire. It was a nice day. Great snowy day in Cryptovania. Very enjoyable.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Tommy, we have our first guest of our show today, and I have known him for a few years. He's helped Squatchers out a lot, actually. We met him in Kansas City, and when we first started out, he was, I still ask him questions, but we used to send reports to him. And Carter, I know you're on, and you used to send me notes back saying, okay, well, this is great, but did you do this? Did you do that? And every time there was something else. Anyway, everyone, welcome to Carter Buschardt, and he is with the BFRO out of Missouri. Hi, Carter.
How y'all doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Just fine. Well, that's the investigator in me is doing the anal stuff and tell you, well, did you do this? Did you do that? It's in my. I have to do that. It's just.
I know. And you know what? Because I'm a paranormal investigator, I so get it. You know what I mean? But we just didn't know what to look for. And so you helped us so much, and I know I can still send you notes or whatever when we need to. And not that we're smart, because we're not.
I'm not either. I'm learning every day. It's a magical mystery tour for me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But no, you were so helpful that first year we were all together, because we were like, just, what do we do? And oh my gosh. And every time you were so nice, though, you'd say, I know this. You were so excited and you were so worked up. But next time, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Okay.
You never know when it's that one little thing you miss that turns a corner for you, answers a question. So, I mean, and that's what I do. I make mess ups all the time. I go, God dang it, I looked right at that and just walked by it and just discounted it totally. So,
right? I know. That's how it is. But so Tommy, you've met Tommy before we came on the air, but Tommy is also, he's also been searching extensively for the big guy. Mm-hmm. Tommy, I don't think you know any BFRO guys, right? So they do things a little bit differently than all of us crazies that are out there in the woods that don't belong to, a big association.
I've never had the pleasure of meeting too many BFRO people. Actually, I very much look forward to the conversation. There's just not a large presence in where we are in Cryptovania, it doesn't seem like. So this will be great.
Mm-hmm. Looking forward to it. Well, we're loosely knit. We belong to the same group, but nobody does the same things within research. And I'm anal retentive, so I will tend to go to the anal and look into that last leaf before I walk away, because you don't know what you're missing. You can miss something so easy and so simple. And I kick myself after I've driven 300 miles back home and go, God dang it.
Yeah. Right. So, Carter, have you had anything really cool happening recently? What have you been chasing?
Well, I led the Illinois expedition back in October, and it was not well attended. I think there was 8 people altogether. It was somebody else was going to do it, and then they bailed out at the last minute, had some family issues, and they canceled it. Then they said, let's put it back on the books. And by the time I got there, I had 8 people, but it was probably one of my most productive expeditions as far as evidence. We got 3 footprints. We were surrounded in the forest late at night by several creatures, several somethings. It was an awesome adventure. I mean, like I said, it was most productive. I did some stuff I hadn't done before, and I got great results with it, so I'm going to go try it again. We went to an area in Jonesboro, Illinois, roughly in that area. And the local said, nobody goes here at night. Nobody goes to this area at night. I don't know who you are. They won't go there at night with people, without, by themselves. They just won't go there at night. So I said, well, that's where I'm going. And so, long story short, we got to an area, and we'd been there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Each day we went, there was trees pushed down across a path. Each day there was another tree pushed down. Somebody was telling us, we don't want you back here. And so we climbed over the trees, and this is where we had found the footprints. So on the last night we got there, there was yet again another tree pushed down. So that made 3 that didn't want us there. We were headed for a 4th tree that had been there for years and years, a big giant tree. Anyhow, I decided to do some samurai chatter. I don't know if you're familiar with the Sierra Sounds, Ron Moorhead's recordings of Squatches back in the 70s in the Sierra Mountains in California. And I did my...
yes.
You familiar with that? It's
Yes.
really good. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it is seminal recordings of a Sasquatch language and behaviors. Anyhow, on some of that, there's this kind of a samurai chatter, a little gibberish. You know, I did that, and the woods exploded. There was stuff being thrown at us left and right, twigs, rocks, limbs. You could hear them walking, running around, getting into position. They were kind of going to pinch us off at this place where the path we were on narrowed. And everybody was a little disturbed, and even I was a little disturbed. And it was an awesome event. We ended up turning back because I had a person who was kind of a weak link, and I didn't want this person to cause other people to be in danger. So I reluctantly turned around and went back, even though they wanted to stay. But there was one person there that I think would have panicked and run in a heartbeat, and she could have caused some trouble. And so, but I'm going back. It was awesome. It was very exhilarating. Your blood's flowing, the neck on the hair on the back of your neck is standing on end, and you're a little shaken, and everybody else is looking around. I mean, it was an awesome experience. You have to be prepared for that. So that was my most recent exhilaration.
Yeah. I found out about that too later. I would have come, Carter, but I had a full October, and I just couldn't do it because you and I have talked for a long time about doing this, and I just thought, that'd be really fun. And then it was on a weekend where we had like Squatcher stuff from beginning to end, and I couldn't schedule. So if you do that again, you let me know right away what the date is so that I can get it on the calendar.
Yeah, I might do it. I'm probably going to go back and just do it as a private research thing, and I'd love to have you tag along. It's in the Jonesboro. It's in the Trail of Tears State Forest. A lot of sadness, a lot of death and mayhem over 150, 200 years back when the Native Americans made their march from the East Coast to the West, and a lot of history there, a lot of burial mounds that are undiscovered. Some are discovered and nobody messed with them. Some of them are robbed and things were taken out of, but it was a really awesome experience. I'm going back.
Did you sense the paranormal when you were back there, being there's Indian mounds and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we did. And the 2 of the people that went on this expedition were actually lived in that area. They lived like 10 minutes from this spot. And he'd been there for 12, 15 years. He would never go there. And he's not he's a big macho guy, but he would not go all this time he lived there, he would never go back there because he was afraid, But his wife is a sensitive, and she claimed to be getting, sounds and some senses of something there, a presence. She couldn't put her finger on it. She wasn't sure if it was a Sasquatch or not. But as she left, she was hearing drums in her head.
Oh yeah.
Hearing drums. And where we went, there was supposed to be a burial mound that had been rifled and dug up. And some of the people found out about it, and they made them put the stuff back. They wrapped it in red blankets, which has some kind of meaning to the Native Americans in that area. So they made them wrap them in red blankets and put it back in the grave. They didn't cover up the grave. They said the grave had to be blessed or consecrated before they could actually cover it up.
Right.
And we couldn't find that. There's a white man's grave. It's an old cemetery from the mid 1800s, and it's there. And this Indian mound was not too far from it. Supposedly, we couldn't find it. But
Wow.
she picked on some weird stuff there.
Yeah. Well, Native American energy is the strongest there is, and you can always tell if it's around. I always bring tobacco and offer tobacco and other things when I'm out there. It's just a good thing to do, is to offer it up to the spirits, so they
You
help
get results from that?
Yeah, we do. We do, actually. And we, Bigfoot is very close to the Native peoples. I mean, they all have. Bigfoot actually represents honesty to the Ojibwas here in Minnesota. He's very big in their lore, and he's very close to the natives. And I do feel like when we offer tobacco to Bigfoot, we offer it to Bigfoot and all of the native spirits that happen to be in our research area. Is actually on native. It used to be, there's a lot of native energy there, so we've seen them. Because I see ghosts, and we've seen actual. Warriors running around and just different things. So yes, we always offer things there, and we do up north too. I mean, everywhere we go, I bring tobacco, and we all offer a little touch, and I think it helps us.
So, Stephanie, in what form do you offer the tobacco? Leaf tobacco, chopped tobacco, smokeless?
It doesn't really matter. It's the thought that counts. And, I know one time we went and I asked, because I forgot to bring, I had a pouch of it, that was given to me. And I was talking to my friend Dave, who's a Native American, and he said, Steph, it doesn't matter what, you just go buy a pack of cigarettes, but, and then just open up the cigarette itself and just take out the tobacco and do that. So in a pinch, you can do that. But the tobacco that I get, I've gotten from both Jerry, who gets, I'm not really sure where he gets his tobacco, and Dave both. They've both given me pouches of tobacco, and it's nice tobacco. I don't really know what kind it is,
Bugler,
but it works.
Bugler is a preferred brand around here, where it comes in a pouch. It's for you roll your own guy. So you buy a pouch of Bugler tobacco, then you buy cigarette papers and roll your own. And one of the people here I know, she takes it and she blesses it with sage and some other stuff that she has, and puts it in kind of a mesh type bag so that the smell of the tobacco gets out, and she hangs it on trees and leaves it out in the woods.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's really a good idea.
But she doesn't stay around to see if there's any activity. It's, the next time you go out, if it's gone, that tells you that it's been accepted. It's usually not in a place that, John and Bob walking through the woods are going to find it. It's put in a hidden type place. Only the Squatch would probably find it high up in a tree or, on rocks or something like that. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
Carter, do you find acceptance for this kind of a mindset, belief system, theory? Do you get a lot of eye rolls from people inside the BFRO, or are they pretty accepting of embracing the paranormal side of things when you do your research?
Off the record, there are people that accept it and want to explore it. On the record, it's not somewhere they care to go, and that's frustrating for me. on many levels, because I've been doing this for 12 years with BFRO. I've interviewed probably over 200 witnesses. I've had 66 or 67 reports actually published to BFRO website. So I kind of know what I'm doing when I'm talking to these people. And when they start telling you stuff that's the paranormal, the mind speak, the cloaking, the all the stuff that goes with that, the dimensions, the orbs, whatever you want, that's where the eye rolls come in. They don't want to publish that stuff.
Yeah.
Because I get it, but I don't agree with it. That we're trying to prove that these creatures exist, yet if we throw that extra other stuff in there, the public's not going to buy it. Well, you want me to believe there's a big hairy hominid running through the woods, and now you want me to believe that his hair follicles can bend light, and therefore he disappears when he's really just still standing there, and he manifests himself, and he comes from another dimension, and that's when you see orbs, and suddenly you see a Squatch when there wasn't one there before. And you hear that more and more, and you hear it enough that you have to start at least considering it. We don't know anything, so how dare we say, well, that can't be? We don't even know what can be, And so it's very frustrating to me as a researcher that we can't go there, and they're protective of their product and packaging of the Squatch's big hairy ape running through the woods, or a creature or a Sasquatch, whatever they are. We don't even know what they are. Mm-hmm. And if you throw the other stuff in, they say it confuses the issue. I say, well, they don't believe us anyway, so might as well throw it all in.
Right.
You have to consider it. You don't have to believe it, but you have to consider it. When I'm talking to witnesses, I'm not going, well, that's probably a bear, or that's probably a radio tower you saw in the background. That's what you thought was an orb. You have to take their stuff at face value, because that stuff's happening to them. It's their reality. You can't take it away. Mm-hmm. So I believe that there's a lot more to them than the meat and potatoes, physical, 8-foot, big hairy guy in the woods. There's a lot more to it. But they've got powers that we may have had at one time, and we just don't have them anymore because we've progressed them out of ourselves. We don't need them because we have computers, we have rockets, we have cars, we have all this technology. Why do we need to be able to communicate with each other without speaking? Why do we need to, any of that stuff? It's very frustrating, So there's eye rolls.
Yeah. But we do, they warn us. I mean, don't you think, because there's been, okay, so here's a question, Carter. So, the earth is in trouble, right? There's global warming everywhere. There's fires, there's catastrophes, it's warming, it's freezing. And there's been so many Bigfoot sightings all over the world, actually, all over North America for sure. And, the natives believe that he warns us, and don't you think, I don't know, I think that they're coming out to warn us that we need to take care of things.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. The Native American lore indicates that they were actually here to protect us and to help us, And so the Native Americans had a symbiotic relationship with the Squatches, I think, going back tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years, whoever was here first.
Yes.
We weren't here. They were here before we came along. Mm-hmm. So they've had a symbiotic relationship, and they worked with one another, giving gifts. You protect our hunting. We're going to leave you food around our camp, and you're going to protect us from our enemies and things of that nature. So I think they know full well what's going on with the earth, because they're not here to ravage and rape the earth like we are, like we do. And so I believe in all that, and I think because we have the mindset as humans, we don't believe that because we've been told that kind of stuff doesn't happen. There's no apes. There's no paranormal aspect to them. They don't exist. So if you're taught that at an early age, when you start hearing that, you immediately shut it out. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. And so you're talking to deaf ears when you're trying to convince anybody of anything of that nature.
Yep. Same with ghosts, right? If they tell you long enough that there is no such thing, then when you get older, I grew up in a family where we were all sensitives and we all talked about the paranormal all the time. So obviously it bloomed.
Yeah. Well, my wife's a sensitive, and she's much more sensitive to that. And her one of her daughters is as well, and my daughter is as well. I just found out back in January when they bought a house of last year. It was haunted in Utah. And I think Heidi actually helped me with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Carter, what time of year is your favorite? What's your favorite season? What do you think is the most productive time to be in the woods doing your research and stuff?
I'd say between March and October here in Missouri. March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Because, here it just got nasty in mid-December. So you can still go out and it's 40 or 50 degrees at night. I mean, it's still not bad. So I've got activity going on. I hear something from my witnesses almost every week. I've got 4 ongoing habituation sites here in Missouri where they've got stuff going on weekly, monthly, and it doesn't stop because it's cold or nasty. So here in Missouri, March through October is prime time.
Have you ever had, instead of an area that's a habituation, have you ever had a person who is habituated regardless of where they live, if they move around?
I have one right now that he seems to be a magnet. He's lived in a couple of different spots, and he's not far, and he's not even one of the 4 habituation sites that I'm considering, because he has paranormal stuff going on there as well, and he's not an attention seeker. But there's one person, and it would be him, that I think he seems to be attracting. He has Sasquatch activity, there's paranormal activity. He's seen them. We talked about a month ago about the 2 events that he had that convinced him that, he thought it was his property. But as a kid, he finds out from his dad that he had some other stuff going on as a kid that he just kind of put out of his mind. So, yeah, I think there are those people. I'm envious. I wish I was one of them. I'm not.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I say that to everybody. And I've had a long, full life. I'm ready. Bring it on,
So, what is your favorite? Tell us about your favorite experience that you've had, or favorite hunt that you've been on.
Well, other than that last one I just mentioned, the expedition I led, the last one I led for BFRO was in Missouri 2013, and I left BFRO for a year or so, and then I came back, and I had a visual sighting through my thermal, and there was me and another guy and a woman. We took a triangular position in a mostly dried up riverbed, and we were about probably 50 feet from each other in a sort of a triangle. Well, we kept hearing things, and my buddy was saying, I'm seeing like a bush or something that's kind of walking at me. I had a thermal. He had nothing. He was just, going through some ambient light on the highway, because there was a light there on this little highway. Anyway, this creature came out, and I saw it through my thermal. I wasn't recording because I was trying to save my battery, so I had my finger off the button. I said, Brian, don't move. There's a Squatch. He's walking right at you. And it's this bush that what he was seeing was a dark bush coming at him. And so I was looking at this thing finally, and I was trying to stand up so that I could get a better view, because the woman who was on the other triangle was actually blocking the view of this creature a little bit. So I was trying to stand up so I could get it and record it. It took a look at my direction when I stood up. I shuffled the rocks, and it heard me. It looked at him because that's the direction he was headed. He turned back and looked toward the woods, and I'm watching all this. Then he turned back and looked at Brian. Then he turned back to look at the woods and just walked calmly into the woods. And I'm watching this whole thing. It probably took 30 seconds. And it was probably 35 feet away from me. Pitch dark, but I'm watching this thing, and it was much shorter and stouter and rounder than the traditional 8 foot tall. This looked like a fullback, no neck. It was big, and it was wider than 3 people. I mean, it was just huge, width-wise. And so we went back the next day and recreated the scene. And he later Brian told me that he saw something walk in front of my car, which is parked across the highway, and I had a camera running in my car. Well, he said the light from the camera got blotted out, and then it came back on. And he thought that was that creature walking by my car, which had the camera running, and then what it did was cross the highway, come back into the woods that was behind me, and walked out through the woods into this creek bed where we were standing. I don't think it knew we were there until it was already exposed. That was an awesome moment because I told the girl, I said, Cynthia, do not move, don't do anything because I'm going to stand up and you're blocking my view of a creature. So you stay seated and I'm going to stand up. So I had both of them freeze because I didn't want them to move, and Brian ended up running to the car because it was still coming toward him for a moment. He said, I'm moving. I'm out of here. And I don't disagree with that. I mean, you don't know. You see this black bush coming at you,
right?
And there's just enough of it coming at you. It keeps moving. It's. I can't tell if I'm seeing things or if it's really if it's something. I said it's something because I'm looking at it. It's white. It's a creature. It's there. And so that was probably the most exhilarating and fun and proof positive that if all else we are told and we see is fake, that wasn't.
Right.
That's the whole thing. There's no evidence. You put all your stuff on, these ridiculous groups that are on Facebook, and they're just so full of hate and negativity.
Yeah.
It's prove it. We'll prove it. Well, that's bullshit. That's crap. That's garbage. Well, why? It's what I see. It's my reality. I'm telling you. And so if you don't believe me, okay, but you don't have to be nasty and hateful about it. I mean, it's, you can agree to disagree. So that was the most exhilarating one. I'm still, getting goosebumps even now just talking about it because I'm just going, God dang it, why didn't I have my button on the record? But I'm anal and I'm going to try to save my batteries. You know how many batteries you run through a night of squatching? I mean, you can run through 15, 20 batteries, and I use the rechargeables, and you're constantly changing batteries. Mm-hmm. So why record all the time? Now I've answered my own question. I record all the time.
All the time.
I carry about 300 batteries with me. I mean, I'm always prepared. I never again will I use the excuse, well, I'll try to save my batteries. That's just shit.
And with that, I think we're coming up on our commercial break for mid-show already.
We are. So we are. That went by really fast, I know.
Yeah, sure.
Goodness. So we are at 8:30. So we are going to go for a 2-minute or 3-minute commercial break, and we will be right back. This is He Said, She Said on the Para X Radio Network.
You haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What Are You Afraid Of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X.
Hey there. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a great new radio show on Para X. 2 hosts, 1 hour, and too much fun. Stephanie and Heidi not only talk about the latest goings-on in the supernatural worlds, they live it. They want to hear from you. They want to help you understand and guide you. And they want you to tune in. So, grab a friend or come alone to gather around that metaphysical table with Heidi and Stephanie. If you're interested in the worlds of the unseen, tune in to the Gathering Radio Show, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on Para X Radio.
It is the secret of the world that all things subsist and do not die. but only retire a little from sight and afterwards return again. Nothing is dead. People find themselves dead and endure the mock funerals and mournful obituaries. And there they stand, looking out the window, sound and well, in some new and strange disguise. This secret must be told to the world, and they must tell it. Because they're not dead, we know this, and we'll prove it. So join Mike and Dave every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central for the Odyssey Files. Only on ParaX.
Welcome back to He Said, She Said, the Cryptid Show. This is Stephanie, and I have Tommy and our guest, Carter Buschardt, with us tonight. Hi, guys. We're back.
Okie dokie.
You know, we have several questions in the chat room, so let's just go through these.
Sure.
Someone's asking, is it the person or the soul that Sasquatch recognizes, do you think?
I think it's both.
Carter.
Yeah, I think it's both. You know, they obviously, I've got enough witnesses that when they go, fishing or hunting in the same spot year after year after year, and they're feeding their families and not, pillaging the land and trophy hunting, they know them. And, but this guy is a minister, and I think they know that he is a good human, a good soul. I can't imagine if you're a really nasty person that treats people poorly, just pick any kind of activity, and you're to go out into the woods and you're hunting, you're going to have any kind of positive experience with anything if you're just a kind of a nasty, hateful people, because they are guardians, I think, of the forest and the earth. And why would you want to mess with somebody like that? There's plenty of people that are open to experiences, good experiences, that want them. And so I think they would probably tend to go with people that are good people. They're going to recognize you. If it's pitch black, they're still going to know you because of your good soul and good purpose. That's my belief,
That could be that they're seeing your aura too, even.
Yeah. There's a vibe. There's a vibe, and that gets into the mind speak and stuff of that nature, and infrasound and stuff like that. We all have an aura. We're all made of cosmic dust from the Big Bang or wherever we came from, and so they sense intent. That's just my feeling when I'm out there alone, that they sense your intent.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think if you go out there with a good heart and an honest heart, you'll be. They know. Like there was that TV show, Carter, remember, that was killing Bigfoot? Do you remember that? I don't know. Is that still on? What the heck? Why? I was like horrified when I saw that come in. It's like, okay, well,
how much
first
blood
of
do you
all,
think they had?
I know. Jeez. Goodness. Oh my God.
They sold a lot of tampons and beer with that show because everybody would tune in to go, well, let's see this as if they kill one, So they got their audience for sure, not the audience I have.
Who I blame for that too is the people that we were just talking about before the break that demand hard evidence and where's your proof and all this and that. Those are the people that encourage, even if it's by proxy, to someone to go out and shoot one. So these people that demand hard evidence, they're the ones that are pushing people in that direction, I think.
Well, there's a bounty, and I don't know if it's still valid. There was somebody offering $5 million out of Florida. I won't drop the name or anything, but there's a group that has financial backing, so they claim you can buy stock in their research group. $5 million to bring me the head of a Bigfoot, so to speak.
Wow, that's just disgusting, can I just say. Okay, so another question is, how many types of Bigfoot calls have been recorded? Do you know that? I don't know the answer to that one.
Well, I mean, there's whoops and howls. Those are the only really the two types. They call one of them the Ohio moan howl, which is a classic. I think Matt Moneymaker actually recorded that back in 1993, I think. So your basic types of Sasquatch communication are howls, whoops, and knocks. Now, they speak a language, and if you listen to the Sierra Sounds, Ron Moorhead's CD, classic stuff, They have a language. It's gibberish. Scott Nelson's a retired Navy linguist, and he's been working on this for years and years and years. And there are speech patterns. So, but to answer the question, probably only 2 or 3, but with a lot of varieties within the 2 or 3. You can get howls that might last a minute or 2 minutes. Because of the size of the cavity, the chest cavity, they can just go on and on and on. There's little whistles, there's whoops. So you probably got 3 main vocalizations and hundreds of variations of those 3 common types.
Right. Yeah.
If I was going to answer that, that'd be,
That's awesome.
Where do you put like mimicry in there too? Do you think mimicry is part of their language as well?
Absolutely. Any animal.
What's the wildest thing? What's the wildest thing you've ever heard or heard of being mimicked?
An owl, and this is very funny. We were in Illinois. I can't remember. It's probably been at least 7 or 8 years. And I was on an Illinois expedition. I was leading a group on night ops. We went to a place that was a conservation area that had a lot of wetlands, and so there's a lot of wide open area. It was really good for sound to travel. We heard the hoot owls and the barred owls calling back and forth. Then we heard a very loud, very, very loud barred owl. It started coughing. It choked. It cleared its throat and started over. We were all howling with laughter. It was so loud, it wasn't because it was an owl that was close. It was a squatch mimicking the owls, which they all do with great accuracy. But this thing choked, got a frog in its throat or something. It choked, cleared its throat, and continued on like nothing happened. It was the most unusual thing. It was the funniest thing that, and there was 5 or 6 other people with us. I've heard chatter. I've heard children. It sounds like children, mumbling. It sounds like children mumbling, but it's also kind of described as Chinaman's chatter. I had 4 women and 2 children out with me one night. I took a women and children only because they're very attracted to the women and children, the life givers, the nurturers. And we heard with absolute clarity the chatter of little children, like laughing and playing. It was just very, very, it was just gibberish, but you could hear it. And you could hear on my tape recorder us all talking. Can you hear that? Yeah, what is that? We listened to it. I said, don't worry about it. We've got it on tape. When I went and played it back, it was not on the tape, but you could hear us talking.
About
it. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Yeah. No, I'm getting it. My recorder's on. I'm looking right at it. The lights are on. I got it. I can see it. I can see the needles moving. When we played it back, it wasn't there.
Wow.
So, they jack with your electronics, I think, unless I had a weird malfunction of the most unusual type, because you could hear us describing what we were hearing, and yet that didn't make it on the tape. I can never explain that in a million years. So those are my 2 weirdest things. With the squatch clearing its throat when it was doing the owl mimicry, it was awesome. Dogs, cattle, cars. We had one that mimicked a car. A guy swears to God he heard a car pull up behind the car he was sitting in, while the rest of us were out in the woods. And he was a irrefutable source of honesty and integrity. And his name was Tom Rue. He was a well liked researcher with BFRO, and he stayed in the car because he couldn't walk because he had COPD. So he stayed in the car, and he heard a car pull up behind him with gravel crunching, car door slamming, and there was nothing there. He said, "Get your butts back here right now. There's something going on." Yeah. And so they have the power of speech, the power of mimicry. They can mimic anything. Dogs, chicken, cats, you name it.
Okay, what about coyotes? We have a researcher here in Minnesota who's in northern Minnesota. He's a native, and he believes that where the coyotes are, you'll find a squatch, because he's been in his research. I've heard his recordings actually, and you can hear the coyotes, and then you can hear something mimicking the coyotes. And his idea is that the coyotes hunt in tandem with Bigfoot. What do you know about that?
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
No, it's they have a symbiotic relationship with
Yep.
The coyotes will scavenge what's left of a Sasquatch kill. The Sasquatch will, if they're not having any luck hunting, they will follow the coyote howls when they have obviously got something cornered, and they will run them off and take their kill.
Yeah.
But they don't kill each other. I mean,
No.
I don't think the Squatch. There's no reports. There's no bodies that are in the shape that most bodies are when a Squatch has gotten a hold of them. So yeah, I think that's entirely a truism. That's a real thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I've heard his recordings, and they are amazing. And I know every once in a while if we're out and we hear the coyotes, I'm like, oh, Sasquatch may not be far behind.
Yeah,
you know?
Soup's on.
So, yeah, exactly, right? So Jerry from The Calling is saying, some people believe that if you see Bigfoot, it's because you will be going through an event that opens up your world, like he is a harbinger of something to come. What do you think about that? I believe that too.
I believe that probably to be true. I have not had that pleasure, but that would be in that what we were talking about earlier about being a chosen person.
Right.
Sasquatch will expose themselves to you. I don't mean that in the illegal term.
No. Yeah,
you know what I mean? I had to throw that in. There's a joke there somewhere. But I mean, they will expose themselves to you if they sense you're good. And that happens with my habituation people. They are allowed to see these creatures. They allow them to see their children, which is a big, big risk for these creatures.
Yeah.
So if you are have the pleasure of seeing a Squatch and or their family, and it's intentional, if they're not running, if they're behind a tree and they're peeking out and they're letting you see them, that's a good omen to me. I mean, that is one of the Squatches that has the sense about them to realize you mean them no harm. I'm going to show you myself and my family because, we're all the same. We have children, we have families, we have a place we live. Of course, we have technology they don't, but I mean, they know. But for a few pieces of DNA, they would be us, we would be them. Just like great apes or chimps. Was it 3 to 5% DNA is the only thing that separates us from all those creatures. Even cattle and pigs, we're within the 5 to 7% of DNA of being those creatures or them being us. And so I think they sense that we are one and the same, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, we eat, we poop, we have kids, we have babies, we have mates. I mean, we're all in one little chunk together, except for some DNA, So that's my belief. And that's why I think if you are allowed to see a Squatch, especially like my habituation people, they're chosen. They get to see them on a regular basis, and the Squatch aren't worried or afraid, And sometimes when I go out there, nothing happens, and I tell them that's probably likely. Here comes the tall Anglo-Saxon Protestant male with electronics dripping off his body. What kind of activity do you think I'm going to get? I leave all that in the car, and I'm just another visitor. And so I've experienced a couple of things with my habituation people, but only because I'm their sans equipment,
Right. So, okay, what do you think? We've had a question in the chat room, too, but they're saying, any thoughts on the Patterson-Gimlin film, Carter?
I think it's legit.
Do you?
I sent you an email about an hour before of the latest. Yeah, the latest.
Missed that.
And you call yourself an investigator? Come on.
Man, I'm telling you, I've had such a busy day today. Can I just say, look at there it is. There it is.
It is the latest 4G breakdown. It's very, very clear. The technology to fake that back then did not exist, and because it's 16 millimeter and shot at the frame rate it's shot at, it's just too hard to fake that unless that is a guy in a suit or you had some other props out there. Otherwise, the technology to fake that did not exist. That being said, the technology to fake. The digital versions is everywhere. You could take that film that what we're seeing now is a digital copy of the original film, the 16 millimeter. So in that's been transferred to a digital media. Anybody and their mother could fake and do whatever they want to that, make it this, that, or the other. But nobody's done that yet. It has proven the test of time, regardless of the people that said my grandpa wore the Bigfoot suit and he was my uncle or whatever. It's proven the test of time. You know, in 67, they didn't have the technology to make an ape with an outfit with boobs and breasts, pendulous breasts. You know, it just wasn't there. You never saw apes portrayed in the movies as anything but males. You didn't see the breasts. It just wasn't there. There were more innocent times back then. You know, the other charlatans. But I think it's real. And you probably talk to 75 or 80% of investigators. They're on board. It's the Holy Grail as we have it right now. That and maybe the Paul Freeman film.
Right. But here, so I'm looking at this and I still can't get over the butt part. You know, it looks like there's a big pillow under there. You know, can I just say? That's my only thing about this Patterson-Gimlin film is that, to me, it looks like somebody in a suit with a pillow on the butt. Because, you know, I mean, gorillas don't even have butts like that. You know, it looks like there's a pillow stuffed under a suit. And that's all I'm saying. You know, if it weren't for that, I would agree with you 100%. And it probably is true. You know, like I said, and this is what I've said all along to my girls too. I said, we can find something out there. We can get a picture of it and somebody's going to pull it apart, but we'll know it's real. Right. So I guess there's real no way of proving anything in this.
No, there's not. We have to have something to hang our hats on. But even if you just take that away, where are the structures coming from? Where are the howls and the knocks and the footprints? You know, I mean, it's just too much, you know, concrete, you know, peripheral evidence. You know, if that didn't even exist, you know, and of course they're all blob squatches, you know.
Right.
But you're in a panic mode. I just did a report from a guy that was a professional photographer. He was staring right at one. He couldn't get his poop together to take a picture. He was totally baffled and freaked out. He was staring at this thing. He's got, I've got a camera. You know, he's a professional photographer. So,
I know.
So you know, but I think it's real. They've done the studies of the gait, the knee bend. That's where, you know, you throw all those stuff out. We don't know the genetics of a Squatch anyway. So how do we know what their makeup is as far as the gluteus maximus, the butt? You know, how do we know? Maybe they're not related to apes anyway. So I think it stands the test of time. You know, it's always a fun debate because.
Right.
Coulda, shoulda, what if?
Yeah, I agree. Tommy?
When you talk to the people that tell you their stories, Carter, how many of them are like, I'm not going in the woods with you. I'll tell you where it was, but I'm not going back there. I'm done. I'm over. I don't hunt anymore. I stay out of the woods now. Is it many people that you talk to that attitude?
I'd say probably 25, 30%. I've got so many reports that I'm a big macho man. I ain't scared of nothing, but I'm never going back in there ever again. You know, I mean, you hear that a lot.
We do.
For some big burly macho guy that's got guns, and I'm talking about 40, 50 caliber guns, not just your regular, you know, shotguns and whatever. He's armed. He can't pull the trigger, and he sees this thing. It's human. I'm not going back there. That goes back to my education of what we're told from birth. When you're told UFOs don't exist, when you're told Bigfoots don't exist, ghosts, and you see one, and your firm belief is, well, that's just fairy tale crap. It doesn't exist. When you see it, flesh and blood, 20, 30, 40 feet away from you, 50 yards, whatever, you're changed, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It changes them forever. And when I'm investigating these people and I'm talking to them, and for someone to tell me, a perfect stranger, to admit that they're scared of something that is unknown to them and it's changed them forever, you just believe them. You just know when they've had an event. You know, what hunter who doesn't know the woods like the back of his hands is going to admit that?
Right.
You know, they don't want anything from it. They don't want any publicity. They don't want their name published. They just say, I'm telling you this. Some of these people file these reports and they won't even call you back.
Yeah.
I told you what happened. I'm not going into it anymore. This is what happened. I can't even talk about it. You talk to my wife, ask her some questions. I'll talk to her. I can't even talk about it without crying or breaking down. So, yeah, I believe those people. Why would you admit something like that? You know.
Yep. And people are afraid to talk about it, you know, because we have, like, our group has Saquatch chats all over Minnesota, and people are so relieved, Carter, when they see us, and they come and they tell it. Some of them will talk publicly, and they'll get up in front of everybody in wherever we're doing this, and some people will grab us privately and take us off to a corner and tell us their story, and they're just so relieved to be talking about it, you know, and it's like, I wish that stigma wasn't there anymore, really, you know, let's give it up now. We're done with that, but...
Yeah. Well, the thing is with the education, when you're told that and you tell somebody you think you want to share this with and you're ridiculed and scorned, that drives them away. That drives other witnesses away. When they read these reports and they read about all the ridicule and shaming, well, I'm not going to tell them about my experience. I'm not going to go through that. So we only hear about probably 10% of actual encounters.
I agree.
And so for every one report I publish, there's 9 more that are going down the toilet. We'll never see them.
I agree, and that's why it's important to get out there. It's important for us to get out there and hear the stories, because every time, no matter where we are, some people find us, you know, and they say, "Oh, you're the Squatchers. We got to tell you this," you know, and then they tell. We must just have the look that they want to tell us their stories, because you know we hear and it's fun. Oh, honestly, it's so fun for us. It's like just the coolest thing ever. So, but then invariably, then we hear other stories too. Then come the stories about, you know, the paranormal, and then also UFOs. And up north, man, those UFOs are really prevalent. Not saying they are connected with Sasquatch in any way, but, you know, just because it's, you know, it's remote up there and there's a lot of things going on up there, you know, it's like, wow, these people that live out in the boonies or out in the, you know, we call it the edge of the wilderness, really see a lot of stuff, you know, and it's really...
Well, Tommy, if you ever saw something like that, would you admit you were scared? I mean, if you had an encounter, a face-to-face 30 yards, and you're staring right at this creature, and a lot of guys are in their deer stands, they're looking right at them, looking at them face. I mean, would you even, you know, if you had that and you were talking to it, would you tell a perfect stranger you were about to piss your pants? I mean,
I'm the wrong person to ask, because I have, and I absolutely will. But I agree with you 100%. Most people do not want to get down that road because they don't want to admit it's a paradigm-breaking experience, and it might encroach on their manliness, etc. And
exactly. I got to turn in my man card if I'm scared to go to the woods. I'm turning in my man card. You know, that is true.
I have people ask me all the time. They're like, "Aren't you scared when you're out there?" I'm like, yeah, I'm scared when I'm out there. I'm looking for a 10-foot monkey that I obviously think is real. You better believe I'm scared. I'd be a lunatic if I wasn't.
Yeah, you'd be lying if you said you weren't, because everybody's on high alert. You have to be, you know.
Yeah, you do. But honestly, guys, I'm not afraid of Bigfoot. I'm more afraid of other things that might be out there, you know, like people. Although usually where we go, there are no other people out there except for us. But I will say the time that we had our biggest experience and we didn't see him, we knew he was there and we knew they were there. Yeah. I was scared to death, Carter. I was scared to death. And I was the one that said, it's time to get in the car and go somewhere else now because I'm scared. I'm really scared. And I am not the one to get flippy like that. But I felt like they were within a couple of feet from us. We could hear them and our thermals weren't showing anything, and they were in the weeds close to us. I would say within 10 feet for sure, and we felt like we were surrounded, and we all instinctively were back to back in a circle looking out, you know. And it was in the middle of the night. There was no moon. It was a new moon, and it was way up north in the boonies. You know, no one else was around. We were way in a remote woods. Yeah, I was scared. You know, can I just say I was pretty scared?
Nature. It's human nature, you know.
Yeah.
It's prudent self-defense.
Yeah.
Prudence.
Yeah. Run first, question later,
Well, yeah, and I mean, it was just, 5 girls. No, we didn't have any weapons or anything. We had cameras and stuff, and that's about it. It was just us.
Yeah. Well, the reason they probably got so close because you didn't have weapons. I mean, they knew you weren't a threat,
That's right.
And it could have been 5 guys, would have been the same effect. Holy crap! And you're out of there,
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
The deadliest weapon you can have in a bad situation like that is the one you had, the camera.
Yeah.
Nobody, animal or human, whatever, nothing wants on film.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
and the one when I was leading the expedition, I had my thermal. I just put it down because I could see heat signatures. I just put it down because it wasn't worth the trouble. But I had just a couple of seasoned investigators with me. Would have been different. But I was leading a group of people that paid money for me to take them out into the woods and have the crap scared out of them. I didn't want to disappoint them.
Right. Yeah. No, but it is quite an experience. And what I will say is we did offer tobacco, and then it all calmed down, can I just say? And then it was like, oh, you guys are here for good. So then everything was cool. It was a Zen moment. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So everybody
should
have
carry tobacco with me.
Carry a pouch of tobacco with you. Yep. And always offer.
Oh my
goodness.
It in my lip.
You what?
I carry it right in my lip.
Okay. Well, you got to have some to offer too.
Yeah.
You guys have opened my mind to this.
Yes, absolutely. Always offer tobacco. You know what? We only have about 3 minutes left. Carter, is there anything you want to talk about that we didn't talk about, or anything that's happening that you want to talk about?
Well, you mentioned about a paranormal thing, and this is a semi-habituation witness. This is a guy I talked about earlier. He's had some ongoing Sasquatch activity there, but when this was probably August of last year, he was up working on his barn. He was up on a really tall ladder. He was working on his barn. And he looked over, he's got about 25 acres. He looked over to the right, and he was looking out over his rolling hills, and he sees 3 people coming at him. He's going, well, that's weird. This is private property, and there's no houses anywhere near here. And it was a man, a woman, and a boy. They're all wearing blue and white checkered shirts. Now, there's an Amish community over there. So he thought it was maybe a new Amish family had moved in. They're coming over to introduce himself. Long story short, he climbs down off the ladder and starts walking to where they were, and they're gone. Just vanished.
Yeah.
About 6 months before that, he was up on the same barn working, and he saw a building which looked like it was a barn off, half a mile away, and it was never there. It wasn't there. And he'd been gone for a while, so he thought, well, maybe because it's Amish, they had a barn raising. They all get together and they all build a barn, and they all push it up at one time, and you've got a barn built in 2 days.
Right.
And so he climbed down off his ladder, started walking over to where he saw it, and he could see it over the hill, just the rooftop. As he got over the hill, it was gone.
Wow. Crazy.
I got a picture of a ghost on his trail cam, which he sent to me. I'll send it to you, and you can look at it.
For sure.
It's not his girlfriend, now fiance. She doesn't wear the clothes like that. It is a transparent human in a night coat.
I love it.
When he bought the house, the guy he bought the house from, when he closed on the house, went there and said, the guy, I've already moved out, come on, it's all yours, I'll leave the keys in the mailbox. He got there, all the furniture was still there. He called the guy, and the guy pretty much told him, I'm not ever going back to that house. There's too much weird shit going on over there. I'm never going back to the house. If you don't want it, throw the shit away.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And so you put all that together, along with his Sasquatch activity, there's stuff going on.
Yeah, there is. You know what? We're out of time. So thank you, Carter, for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Enjoyed it.
Awesome. Tommy, I will see you. We'll be back next week.
Absolutely, we will.
Good chatting with you, Tommy. Send me a link.
Nice to meet you, Carter.
You guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You do well.
When the lightning comes down, when the lightning comes down.